At the checkpoint, they exposed her bag's contents, then discovered an incredible hidden emblem. Emily's heart raced as she approached the checkpoint, the tension in the air wrapping around her like a thick fog. She clutched her worn leather bag, its seams fraying from years of use and love. Today was meant to be about hope. She had gathered supplies for the fundraiser at the community center, a lifeline for many families in her small Midwestern town. But now, with heightened security after recent events, this checkpoint felt more like an interrogation. "Ma'am, can we take a look inside?" the officer asked, his steely voice cutting through her thoughts. Emily felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She nodded, holding her breath. As he rummaged through her precious bag, a wave of embarrassment washed over her. Ruffled notebooks, used markers, and crumpled notes from her kids spilled out like pieces of her life. Then, he paused, lifting out a tattered military medal, its shine dulled but still radiant in the midday sun. "What is this?" he questioned, eyeing it suspiciously. Panic fluttered in her chest as she realized he was judging not just her, but the story behind the medal, one that carried the weight of her father's bravery. He had fought valiantly for his country, only to lose his life in a fight for freedom. This medal was a piece of her soul, a reminder of the sacrifices made for a vision of hope. "I am sorry. That belongs to my father," Emily stammered, finding her voice just above a whisper. The officer's eyebrow raised, skepticism painted across his face. She felt the gaze of the townsfolk behind her, their vulnerability, their shared struggles intertwining with hers. She had come to represent not just herself but every hard-working parent in their community. He served this country and fought for the very principles we stand for today. The air was electric with her words, the crowd silent as she continued. "He taught me to fight for what I believe in, to push through tough times." Tears burned in her eyes, brimming with years of silent battles. "I'm trying to make a better life for my kids. I'm not just a bag of rags or a statistic. I am a mother, a teacher, a fighter." Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her heart hammered in her chest as the officers shifted uncomfortably. The atmosphere around them changed, the tension beginning to simmer down. The crowd started to murmur, faces softening as they shared her pain. They saw not just a mother trying to keep her kids safe, but the emblem of resilience that every family in that town embodied. With her father's medal glinting defiantly in the sunlight, Emily felt a surge of strength, the echo of her father's courage leading her on. She stared into the eyes of the officers, wondering if they could see past biases, if they could find the humanity they often overlooked. The air felt charged, and her plea lingered. Would they rise beside her? Would they comprehend the strength found in shared struggle? As the moment stretched, the stakes loomed larger. The silence throbbed with unspoken potential, inching toward a critical chance at understanding. Could a connection be forged in this fragile instant? Emily stood, heart racing, craving the redemption that hovered tantalizingly close. The quiet was almost unbearable. Emily felt as if time had slowed, each heartbeat echoing in her ears. She focused on the officers before her, the weight of her father's medal heavy in her hand, its history pressing into the moment. She yearned for acknowledgement, for compassion, for even a hint of understanding. Would her father's legacy mean something here? The officer shifted his gaze between her and the medal, uncertainty painting his face. "Look, ma'am," he began slowly. "I recognize the value of these things. But protocol is protocol." He sounded almost regretful, which sparked a flicker of hope in her heart. "But it's not just an object," Emily blurted out, her voice stronger now. "This medal symbolizes everything I am, everything our town stands for. It's about courage, sacrifice, and hope. It's the spirit of our community," and she struggled for words, but urgency propelled her forward. "You know how we all hurt. We're fighting our own battles every day. This fundraiser, it's not just about us. It's about lifting each other up, coming together. And I can't do that if you don't see me. The gathered crowd shifted, more people stepping closer, absorbing her message. A mother with a baby on her hip nodded, a twinkle of recognition in her eyes, while a burly father stood, fists clenched with pride. Emily felt their solidarity. It was a silent wave of support washing over her. The officer sighed, his stance softening as he looked back at his partner. "Let us take a breath," he said finally, as if reconsidering the entire situation. His partner exchanged a glance with him, and Emily seized the moment. "Please," she whispered, desperation creeping into her voice. "This isn't about an inspection. It's about humanity. It's about seeing the real stories behind faces that seem lost in the shuffle." She stepped forward, her heart racing, holding that medal aloft. "This represents sacrifices made, hopes held dear. Don't let fear blind you to our truth." Just then, a voice rang out from the back of the crowd. "My brother served too." It came from a woman with tears streaming down her cheeks. "He has gone now, but I remember every story. We can't let their legacy slip away." Emily's chest swelled as one by one, more voices emerged. They began to share their experiences, tales of service, struggle, and the bond of community in difficult times. The air electrified with shared sorrow and strength, transforming the checkpoint from a place of tension to a gathering of renewed hope. As the officers listened, caught in the current of emotion, the crowd grew bolder. Emily realized this was more than just her fight. It transformed into a chorus of unity. But just as she began to feel a flicker of triumph, a shout pierced through the emotion. "Stop! What are you all doing here?" A sharply dressed official surged past the line, eyes less forgiving. His presence dampened the moment like an unexpected storm. Emily felt her heart drop. What did this mean? Was everything they'd built in this fragile moment about to be torn down? What is going to happen next? Will they collaborate with us or shut us down? She thought as panic clawed at her throat. The emotion in the air shifted once more, twisting with uncertainty. The crowd held its breath, faces morphing into expressions of apprehension. How would they respond to this new threat? Emily felt dread seep in, threatening to overwhelm her renewed strength. She glanced around, seeking solidarity in the eyes of her neighbors, but as the voices dwindled, the looming presence of authority created an oppressive weight. A showdown was brewing, and everything hinged on Emily's next move. Emily's heart raced, the weight of the moment feeling unbearable. The sharply dressed official moved closer, his presence suffocating as he scanned the crowd. His eyes darted from face to face, measuring their resolve, and then finally landed squarely on Emily. "What's all this?" he demanded, voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "You're causing a disturbance. This is a restricted area." The officers exchanged glances, caught between their initial sympathies and the rigid authority of their superior. Emily felt her breath quicken, the crowd shifting uncomfortably around her. She had to speak up now. "This is about more than just rules. We're here because we believe in something bigger," she cried, her words spilling out like a river breaking through a dam. "This is about our community's strength. It's about remembering those who sacrificed everything for us." The official's expression was unreadable. Was he moved, or was he just annoyed? Emily couldn't tell. But behind her, the crowd began to grow restless, whispers of agreements rippling through them. A middle-aged man clutched his daughter's shoulder, and she squeezed his hand back, bracing herself against the unknown. "Sacrifice?" the official echoed, raising an eyebrow, his tone mocking. "What do you think you're doing here? Just because you're waving a trinket doesn't mean you can bypass the law. Those medals don't change protocol." Emily swallowed hard, anger rising. The stories shared just moments ago surged through her, giving her strength. "It represents my father's service," she shouted, her voice fierce, every syllable fueled by emotion. "It's not a trinket, it's a symbol of hope, of our shared journey. We're all fighting together." Finally facing her with an intensity that brought silence, the official said, "Then let me see it." Show me how precious this hope really is. With trembling hands, Emily held out the medal, glinting even in the dim light. The crowd leaned closer, breaths held, anticipation turning to solemnity. This medal is a reminder that love transcends laws. That in every battle fought, there is a story, there is pain, sacrifice, and ultimately, healing. For a moment, all was still. Emily studied the official's face, searching for a hint of understanding, a crack in his armor. The world around her was muted, her heartbeat pounding in her ears, urging him to grasp what lay before him. He reached out slowly, almost as though he feared the metal might bite him. The moment felt suspended, like an alarming silence before a storm. And in that space, Emily's mind raced. Would he recognize the truth, or would he dismiss her completely? When his fingers brushed the cool metal, something flickered behind his eyes. Was it confusion, or was it flickering respect? Just as hope ignited inside her, another shout rang out from the outer edges of the crowd. Hey, we have rights! A woman stepped forward, fists clenched, her voice echoing the anger simmering beneath the surface. You can't just shut us down! Emily felt the tension snap like a taut string. The crowd surged again, emboldened by collective frustration and defiance. All around her, they stood tall, unified in their convictions. The official hesitated, glancing at his own officers, who seemed reluctant to intervene. Emily recognized the moment, the turning point. It was happening right before her eyes. What is your name? He finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emily, she replied, surprised at the steadiness in her tone. He held her gaze. Emily, if this means that much to you, what do you want us to do? Help us honor our heroes, she breathed, the weight of hope hanging between them. Join us, stand with us. But before he could respond, someone else shouted from the outskirts, or else what? We'll just keep pushing until we're heard. In that instant, Emily realized they might not be willing to back down. Voices echoed, hearts quickened. The battle shifted from just her as a solitary figure to a community ready to claim its place. The moment teetered on a knife's edge, and Emily knew it was only the beginning. What was at stake here was greater than a single medal. It represented a fight for dignity and recognition. What would the official choose? Would he side with her plea or uphold the weight of power crushing their spirit? The crowd fell silent, and all eyes turned toward him, waiting for his answer, hearts beating as one. Time hung heavy in the air as the crowd leaned in, breaths held tightly in anticipation. Emily could feel their gaze piercing her. It was as if the weight of everyone's hope rested squarely on her shoulders. She held her breath, praying for a sign from the official, for something that hinted at change. The official, a tall man with an air of authority, finally took a deep breath, straightening his posture. For a fleeting moment, Emily saw uncertainty flicker in his eyes, a crack in his armor just wide enough for hope to slip through. You think you can just stand here and demand things, he began, his voice steadying, but laws are laws for a reason. Frustration surged through the crowd again. People murmured, some shook their heads, and Emily could feel the ground beneath her begin to quake with restless energy. What good are laws if they bury the honor of those who fought for them? Emily shouted, defiance coursing through her veins. The official glanced around, measuring the strength of the protest against his duty. I understand your passion, he said, words laced with caution. But I can't just make a decision based on feelings. Then what will it take? She shot back, her heart racing. You say your hands are tied, but we're here to untie them. We can find a way together, I know we can. As the crowd erupted in cheers, a fierce determination replaced the fear that had flickered moments before. She could almost taste victory. But in that instant, an unwelcome thought clawed at her mind. What if everything they were fighting for slipped from their grasp? Your stories matter, and I recognize that, the official continued slowly, as if weighing each word carefully, but I can't compromise security regulations. There are nuanced ways to honor your heroes without breaking the law. Nuanced? You mean to say formalities over feelings? Protocol over people? She replied, her voice rising. Those nuanced ways have left us unheard for too long. The swell of agreement within the crowd surged again. We want to honor them. Someone shouted from the back. They sacrificed everything, just to be brushed aside. A wave of shouts erupted, voices crescendoing into a rallying cry. The sheer intensity of the crowd transformed the atmosphere from a standoff to a communal sea of defiance. Emily could feel the energy surging in waves, filling her with both exhilaration and fear. Listen! The official finally raised his voice above the din. If we're going to do this, it has to be in a way that honors regulations and it has to be organized. Emily's heart sank momentarily. Was this the compromise she feared? She needed to cut through the noise and regain control. Organized? She echoed, searching for strength. Or maybe it just means keeping us quiet. No, not quiet, he countered quickly, glancing around and swallowing hard. But let us perhaps take a step back and consider how we can work together. A public memorial, perhaps, recognized by the city, something official. But you must help in crafting it. Relief flooded her with hope's embrace. There was a possibility, a sliver of light. A public memorial for their heroes could be the bridge they desperately needed. But just as hope began to swell, another shout broke through the noise. What's a memorial worth if you don't take action now? Those words hung in the air, challenging and catalyzing. Emily turned slowly toward the speaker, ready to address the crowd's growing impatience while battling against her own spiraling thoughts. Was a mere memorial enough? Was it just a bandage on a much deeper wound? In that moment, her vision sharpened with clarity. They needed more than a memorial. They needed an uprising that resonated deeper than brass and stone, richer than mere acknowledgement. Let us not just settle for a memorial. Let us ignite a movement. We want their stories to echo beyond this moment throughout our community. She cried, feeling the pulse of solidarity crash around her. What would they do next? Would they join her in pushing for something greater, something that would be remembered not just with stone but in hearts for generations? The crowd surged, a vibrant mix of anger, hope, and determination waiting for the spark that would ignite next. The crowd took a collective breath, the energy tightening like a coiled spring. Emily took a step forward, her heart racing as the voices swelled with anticipation. She could feel their hope radiating, a living entity that wrapped around her almost protectively. She wasn't just fighting for a memorial. She was rallying for something bigger, something that stretched far beyond this moment. What do we want? She called out, her voice breaking through the murmurs. Justice, came the unified response, a deep roar that vibrated through her chest. When do we want it? She pressed, eyes scanning the crowd like a ship's captain searching for wind. Now! They shouted back, fierce and unwavering. Emily closed her eyes for a moment, allowing their energy to wash over her. It filled her lungs, igniting a spark of courage that felt all at once exhilarating and terrifying. She was standing at the precipice of change, and as the crowd chanted, she felt as if she might fall or soar. Then let us make a stand, she shouted, her voice growing stronger. Not just for a memorial, but for recognition, for legislation, for our heroes to be known and remembered as they should be. The crowd erupted, a tsunami of agreement surging with each declaration she made. She felt their hearts beating in time with hers, a powerful rhythm pushing against the boundaries of protocol and politeness. Suddenly, a man in a crisp blue uniform emerged from the side of the stage, his eyes sharp and focused. Emily's stomach dropped. She recognized him as a city council member, a key player in the very laws they were challenging. The murmurs quieted as he approached, his face an unreadable mask. I see passion here, he said, his voice steady but low. But let us not forget the reality we're dealing with. This isn't a call to arms. This is a delicate situation. You think these regulations are mere hurdles, but they are here to protect us all. Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. What did he know about their pain? About their heroes who had become nameless, faceless statistics? We are not mere statistics. We are their voices. We will not be silenced, she responded, heat rising in her cheeks. Then let us channel that energy, he replied, hands held up in a gesture of peace. But we need structure. A framework. Without it, these actions won't lead to anything of substance. You need to think strategically. Though frustration simmered just below the surface, a part of her recognized the truth in his words. She wanted change, but structure could lead to lasting transformations. However, there was an urgency gnawing at her, threatening to unravel any glimmer of hope the crowd had created. Fine, she conceded, voice strong but measured. But let us make it clear. We'll stand for our cause, not just in a boardroom but on the streets. We need voices around the table, our stories told right now. A cheer erupted, and the tension in the air shifted. The walls she felt closing in before seemed to ease a bit. Yet, in the back of her mind, a question lingered: would they truly unite? Could this crowd morph into a cohesive, unstoppable force, or was it just another fleeting moment of hope? Tomorrow, Emily declared, her voice steady but determined, meet me at the park. We'll plan our next move. Together, we'll make this impossible to ignore. Momentum was on their side, but as the crowd began to disperse, whispers of doubt flickered in her heart. She knew the battles ahead would be steep, and now it wasn't only about keeping her heroes' memories alive. It was about holding on to the spirit of their fight. As she stepped down from the makeshift stage, her mind raced with possibilities. What if they regrouped and brought more voices into the fold? What if they could truly awaken an entire community? But just as she turned to leave, a woman caught her sleeve, urgency glimmering in her eyes. Emily, she said in a low voice, I know something you need to hear. It's about the people we're honoring. Emily's heart skipped a beat, curiosity tugging her back into the fray. What did the woman know that could change everything? Emily turned to face the woman, sensing the weight of her words. The crowd around them began to ebb, shadows lengthening as the sun slipped lower in the sky. She could hear conversations fading into the distance, but her focus remained locked on the woman's intense gaze. What do you know? Emily whispered, her heart still racing from the rally. The urgency in the woman's eyes made her pulse quicken further. I was close to them, the ones we remember today, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, as if revealing a secret too profound to be spoken out loud. They didn't just fight, they uncovered something that could help us now. Emily's brow furrowed. What are you talking about? What did they uncover? The woman glanced around, as if to ensure no one else was listening. Your heroes had leads, evidence against corruption within the system. They were close to exposing it before she hesitated, emotion catching in her throat. Before they were silenced. Silenced? Emily echoed, the wind taking the words and carrying them into the gathering dusk. You mean they were killed because of what they knew? Yes, the woman affirmed, a firmness stealing over her features. And what I'm about to tell you could change everything. I have copies of their findings, documents that connect to the city's regulations. If we present this, we might shake the foundations of the complacency that has kept their memories sidetracked. Emily felt hope crackle like electricity between them. Where are they? Can I see them? The woman hesitated again, then pulled out a small envelope from her coat, handing it over with trembling hands. But be careful. People like him, she said, glancing again over her shoulder toward the departing council member, they'll do anything to keep this buried. As Emily took the envelope, she felt its weight, a harbinger of untold stories and truths. You're sure this will matter? That it could really help us? It has to matter, the woman said, her voice steady now. You have to make their voices heard. It's not just about remembrance, it's about justice and change. If we remain silent, then their sacrifices mean nothing. With the envelope nestled in her hand, Emily swore she could feel the pulse of each name etched into her heart, the longing for recognition becoming a fire inside her. Thank you, she managed, tears welling in her eyes. You just made this fight even bigger. The woman's eyes softened for a moment, but then her expression hardened again. Just remember, not everyone will want the truth to come out. Be ready for backlash. With a nod, Emily tucked the envelope away, her thoughts spiraling with new possibilities. She needed to gather everyone for a strategy. After all, uncovering the truth meant bringing more people into the fold. They had to be prepared for whatever came next. As she started to walk away, doubt gripped her again. How many were willing to risk everything? What if those truths reached someone who preferred the status quo? An unsettling image of betrayal flickered in her mind, friends turning their backs, allies falling silent. But then she thought of those whose memories they were fighting for. Those who had given everything, and could not speak for themselves. She straightened her back, determination settling over her like armor. Tomorrow would bring them to the park. They would meet, strategize, and face whatever consequences lay ahead. As she left the scene, a deep sense of urgency took hold. The woman's words echoed fiercely in her mind. What had they uncovered? How deep did the corruption run? And would Emily find the courage to face the truth once it was fully revealed? The next morning arrived with a heavy fog that clung to the streets, wrapping the town in a shroud of uncertainty. Emily made her way to the park, the envelope of findings tucked securely under her arm. Her breath came in soft puffs as she navigated through the familiar paths, the morning chill cutting through her layers. A cacophony of distant voices greeted her, rising with the sun as others gathered to continue the fight she was so fervently ignited by. As she approached the park, the air thickened with anticipation. Friends and allies were already setting up tables, putting up flyers, and sharing whispers of excitement over what was coming. But within her, doubts still flickered. Would they see the urgency she felt? Would they be willing to push against the unseen grip of power that had long suffocated them? Charlie, her steadfast friend, spotted her first, raising a hand with a grin. "You're here! We were just about to start." His enthusiasm was infectious, and Emily felt a little bit of her anxiety lessen. "Have you talked to everyone?" she asked, scanning the area for familiar faces. "Just about," he replied, his smile fading slightly. "But there's a buzz about today. Everyone can feel it. It's like they know change is in the air." Emily took a steadying breath and shared a look with Charlie. She couldn't help but feel the weight of what she had to share. "There's something I need to explain," she started, glancing around to make sure no one was in earshot. "It's about the rally last night, and the documents I received." "Documents?" Charlie raised an eyebrow, leaning in closer. Soon they were surrounded by others, curious faces drawn near as she began to reveal the truth the mysterious woman had entrusted her with. As she unfolded the story, a mix of concern and fascination washed over the group. Every eye widened as she spoke of those who had fought against corruption, names held dear, voices silenced too soon. "We need to show this to the people," Emily insisted, her voice growing stronger. "We can't hold back when we finally have something to fight for." A ripple of anxiety spread through the crowd. "But what if it gets us into trouble?" someone voiced, biting their lip. "What if we get targeted?" Emily recalled the woman's warning, that truth would cost them. It was a bitter reality, but it only solidified her resolve. "We've been silent for too long. We owe it to them to share these findings, even if it means standing on the brink of danger." Nervous murmurs began to fade into silent contemplation as the group weighed her words. She could see flickers of bravery sparking in their eyes, the kind that came from knowing there was something to fight for, even in fear. Then, just as the energy in the park shifted towards a unified determination, a figure approached from across the grassy lawn. Dressed in a crisp suit, the unmistakable shadow of the council member loomed overhead, a dark cloud over their hopeful gathering. "Emily," he called, his voice smooth yet tainted with authority. "What has happened here?" I couldn't help but notice quite a crowd gathering. The group tensed, instinctively leaning closer to Emily. She felt their collective heartbeat resonate with her own. "We're simply discussing how to honor those we've lost," she responded, trying to keep her voice steady. The council member stepped closer, an unsettling smile playing at the corners of his lips, but his eyes betrayed nothing but scrutiny. "I'd advise you all to choose your next steps carefully. You wouldn't want to stir up anything undesirable." An audible chill spread amongst them, but Emily stood her ground. Did she dare risk everything now? With her heart pounding, the answer fell on the edges of her lips: today had to bring change. But confrontation loomed, and the moment felt precarious. "Right," she replied slowly, her resolve strengthening. "And you wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of history, would you?" As her words hung in the air, she knew this moment was just the beginning of something much larger. She needed to unite her friends, yet the council was clearly ready to fight back. Who would stand with her when the stakes became so dangerously real? As the sun peeked through the fog, it illuminated the tension rising in the park. Would they find the courage to challenge the forces against them? Would Emily be able to lead them in this battle against silencing and corruption? The next move could change everything. The murmurs in the park intensified, the faint rustle of leaves pressing against the weight of Emily's words. She could feel the eyes of her friends on her, searching for reassurance even as fear crept in. It was a moment that teetered on the edge, one that could tip either way. Listen, everyone. Emily raised her voice, determined to rally them. This is our chance. They want us to back down, to be afraid. But remember why we are here. For those who stood before us, for those who have lost everything. A few heads nodded, an ember of strength igniting amidst the uncertainty. But the council member, a figure of authority and intimidation, hadn't he moved. He stood there, arms crossed, a reminder of the looming consequences of their actions. Do you really think people will back you after all this? He asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You're aiming to disrupt the peace, and I assure you, the narrative can twist in a heartbeat. Who defines that narrative? Charlie stepped forward, challenging the councilman's presence. Are we supposed to remain silent while you play puppet master? Enough is enough. The tension in the air shifted, becoming thick with resolve. Emily felt the wave of courage wash over her like a fresh breeze. Voices chimed in, rallying behind her. Right. Let us make this our platform, cried a woman from the back, her fists clenched. Yeah. Fight for what's right, yelled another. Emily's heart raced, and she knew that she had to strike while the iron was hot. We can schedule a rally, put the findings on display for everyone. We can call for transparency. We can. But before she could finish, the council member interrupted with a booming laugh that cut through them like ice. And what? You really think you can sway the town? The press? You're playing a dangerous game, Emily. Maybe it's time to play a dangerous game, she shot back, a rush of adrenaline pushing her forward. Maybe being safe has only cost us our voices. Her passion ignited a fire in the group. They stood taller, tightened their circles, and murmured words of agreement, mapping out their plan right in front of the man who wished to intimidate them. Emily, a worried voice drifted from the crowd. They were still nervous, but for the first time, it seemed they were willing to tackle the fear head-on. What if we're wrong? What if this isn't how we should move forward? Aren't we already wrong by sitting back and watching? She countered, her voice breaking slightly with emotion. This isn't just about us. It's about every single person in this town who feels unheard and unseen. We owe it to them to take a stand. As the fog began to lift, sunlight broke through the clouds, casting bright patches of light across the park. A light-hearted chorus of laughter erupted as someone in the back broke the tension with a joke, an unexpected moment of levity. But it was fleeting. The council member cleared his throat and stepped closer to her. You think courage is what you need? You'll need more than courage when the consequences come knocking. With that, his final warning hung there, heavy in the air. For a moment, Emily felt the weight of his words bearing down on her. What would the fallout be? How far would she have to go to protect everyone she cared about? But there was no turning back now. Meet here tomorrow, she declared. Bring anyone and everyone. It's time to show them we won't be cowed. As the crowd cheered, Emily felt a wave of hope wash over her. She was leading them into uncharted territory, but together, they were demonstrably strengthened in purpose. Yet, just when it seemed like they found their stride, a chilling silence enveloped the park. A small group of figures appeared at the entrance, faces obscured by dark hoods and blank expressions. Emily's pulse quickened. What now? Who were they? Were they there to support or to silence? As curiosity morphed into dread, she locked eyes with Charlie, who wore a look of concern that matched her own. The crowd's energy shifted again, uncertainty creeping back in. Stay together, she whispered, feeling the fragile hope. spiral into trepidation. But that was when the figures approached, whispering amongst themselves, each step echoing her growing anxiety. What would they demand? What secrets might they unveil? The moment felt charged with an electrifying fear, and for Emily, this was just the beginning of a much greater fight ahead. Would they uncover the truth, or would this fate threaten everything they had built? The figures moved closer, their hoods casting shadows that made it hard to read their intentions. Emily's heart raced as they stepped into the park's fading light, her mind racing through the possibilities of what this meant. Were they here to intimidate? To control? Charlie took a step forward, a protective instinct surging through him. We need to ask them what they want, he shouted, raising his chin defiantly. Emily grabbed his arm gently, her eyes scanning the crowd. She could sense the underlying tension in the air, the way fear rippled like a stone tossed into a still pond. Wait. Let us see what they say first, she urged. As the group halted just a few paces away, one of the figures finally spoke. The voice was low, but it cut through the silence. We're not your enemy. We've seen what is happening to your town. And we came to help. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the crowd. Was this an act? Could they trust these strangers? Help? Emily echoed, skepticism lacing her words. How do we know you're not working for the council? The figure stepped closer, lowering their hood, revealing a face marked with determination, but behind it lay unmistakable fear. Because we are here for the same reason you are. We want justice, too. Others in the group lowered their hoods, revealing faces that told stories of struggle and disappointment, those who had fought battles of their own. There were no signs of authority here, just weary warriors who had seen darkness and were ready to bring it into the light. Then what do you propose? Emily challenged, feeling both vulnerable and hopeful. If you're planning a rally, you need allies. People who will stand with you against the council's deceit, the figure replied. The crowd remained cautious. Emily could see their divided expressions. Some were willing to take a leap of faith, while others were echoing her uncertainty. Suddenly another voice emerged from the shadows, a familiar cadence. I am with them. It was Patricia, once an influential figure in town, now a shadow of her former self. I've seen too much to stay silent. These people know the truth. Patricia stepped forward, eyes fierce with conviction. I had sources, quiet whispers revealing the council's hidden sins. They're behind the corruption that tears our community apart. Together, we can expose them. A strong flicker of energy surged through the crowd, the echo of her bravery lifting spirits that had been waning. Every soul standing there was united in the fight for something bigger than themselves. What do we do? Someone shouted, pleading for direction. Emily turned to the hoods and to Patricia, her heart pounding. If we do this, we need to act fast. Timing is everything. Gather evidence. We need a plan. But just as she felt a rush of momentum, a sudden rustle cut through the night, like a warning sigh from the world. A sleek black car pulled up nearby, its tinted windows reflecting the depths of the evening. The unmistakable silhouette of another council member stepped out, flanked by a couple of stern-faced guards. The crowd froze, the sudden shift dousing their hope with fear. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Was this it? Was this the confrontation they had been building toward? The moment felt like a drumroll before a grand performance, urging her to decide quickly. Everyone, we need to scatter, she shouted, knowing that staying could lead to disaster. But as the crowd shifted, the members in hoods remained rooted, determination etched on their faces. They weren't backing down. Together, one whispered fiercely, and the meaning resonated through Emily's core. In that heartbeat, she knew she had to lead, facing whatever came next. But as she stepped forward, the council member's voice boomed through the park. What do you think you're doing? This is not your space. You will be held accountable. Emily locked eyes with her friends and allies, a powerful decision echoing in her heart. Then let us show them what we're really made of, she whispered fiercely. As the night deepened, a call to action stirred in her blood. Would they stand their ground or retreat into the darkness? As the shadows danced around them, Emily felt the pulse of the moment surge through her. "We will not be intimidated!" she shouted, her voice sharpening the night air. The crowd's response came like thunder, igniting a spark that filled the park with raw, unpolished courage. The figures in hoods stood tall beside her, no longer just strangers but fellow warriors sharing a united dream for justice. The council member's sneer barely held, wavering at the palpable energy. "You think your little gathering can change anything? This town has rules." Yet his authority felt thin, like a glass facade and echoes of determination. Emily stepped forward, the weight of her father's metal hanging metaphorically around her neck, reminding her of the legacy of courage she carried. "This is more than just a gathering. It's a movement," she declared, feeling her confidence swell. "We're here for our heroes, for those who risked everything. We will shine a light into the darkest corners where corruption festers, and reveal the truth." As her words bounced off the walls of the park, she saw flickers of agreement among the crowd, people nodding, eyes sparking with renewed hope. "Get back!" the council member barked, and his guards shifted nervously, trying to make sense of the unraveling scene. But something deep within them shifted, fueled by the stories they had buried. They could feel the energy radiating from those present, an unwavering resolve that could no longer be ignored. Another voice from the crowd emerged, filled with a confidence that surged like a wave. "They may have power over regulations, but they don't control our hearts." It was Patricia again, her spirit lighting a fire in the souls of those gathered. "Let us show them we refuse to live in fear. Together, we can stand against this injustice." The crowd roared in agreement, and in that one heartbeat of unity, they made their decision. Emily's heart soared. "Who's with us?" she called, and before she finished, a chorus erupted. "Us." The sound reverberated through the park. It echoed with a familiar tune of resilience and hope that transcended fear. Emily's eyes glistened with tears of joy as she looked at the faces around her, each one a reflection of struggle, triumph, and unwavering spirit. "We need to lay out our plan right now," she urged, sensing the momentum growing. Those watching came together, voices merging into a direction, each idea adding weight to their unified front. Inspired, Emily gathered the hoods of her newfound comrades, Patricia at her side, hashing out specifics under the watchful eyes of the fearful council. "Let us establish our timeline, get media coverage, share our documents with everyone, call a town hall," one said urgently. "We need to organize rallies and vigils, showing our support for those who sacrificed everything," another added, and the commitment among them solidified like molten metal, cooling into harmony. Just then, the council member attempted to regain control, stepping forward with an icy glare. "You cannot do this. You will regret the consequences." But his warning hung in the air, empty and lifeless against their collective resolve. Emily's voice rose one last time. It rallied the spirits of those who stood beside her. "We're not afraid of consequences. We honor those we've lost, and we will make their stories heard. Their fight is our fight, we will not be silenced." As her impassioned words hung thick in the air, one by one, people began to rise, hands raised in solidarity, while the crowd let out a mighty cry that echoed into the cold night. "For our heroes! For justice!" they shouted, a chorus of defiance that resonated through the park. The council member and his guards stiffened, their shocked looks revealing that this time, they were facing something far greater than they ever anticipated, the unbreakable spirit of a united community. Emily felt the tears fall freely now, a mix of relief and elation swelling in her chest. They had crossed the threshold, casting aside darkness for a future where their heroes would live on, not just in memory but in action. They were ready to forge a path to change together. The following day, under brilliant sunlight, the park would be alive with voices, stories, and the promise of hope. They would stand firm, holding the truth high above their beacon against corruption, a reminder of sacrifice, and the strength of unity. As the crowd began to disperse, momentum still thrumming in their veins, Emily took a moment to breathe deeply, a sense of peace washing over her. She looked around at the familiar faces, and for the first time in a long time, she felt lighter. Change was brewing, and it began here, in this park, a gathering place for heroes, a birthplace of hope, Now was the time to seize their moment, to shout their heroes' names into the wind, and refuse to accept anything less than they deserved. They were ready to rise together, they had to. It was a new beginning, one that would shake the foundation of their small town, revealing truth and resilience in its most powerful form. Together they were unstoppable. Join Emily's movement. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring call to action. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.